And maybe you want to identify target per F. Probably not though. Like I said, 1-to-1 is basically what everything's going to use. And then claim rewards. If there's some type of reward that can be claimed, basically if by holding the collateral token, you earn the right to claim some governance token or reward token, then you're going to have to implement the claim rewards function. Okay, let's look at Lido because it's a simple case. Oh, apparently I can't go back here. Okay, so here's Lido staked ETH collateral. First, I recommend at the very top using some kind of documentation like this where you explicitly say what the 4 units are equal to. Okay, and as I said before, or maybe didn't, UOA is always USD. These are the 3 units you need to come up with. Read through this doc. Well, these are the questions to ask. Really read through this doc in order to understand deeply what is the talk and ref and target unit. Like I said, that is explained here under accounting units and exchange rates. I'm not going to read through all this. Just do it yourself. Okay, so first thing you do, you figure out what is my collateral token. Suppose you were following that train of thought for Lido, okay? You might think, okay, great, Lido's got a collateral token, ST-ETH, right? Okay, kind of. ST-ETH is rebasing. One of the constraints of the protocol is it needs to have a token that is non-rebasing. Its balances, it assumes that if it has a balance of a token at time t1, that at time t2 later, if nothing has happened, it still has that balance, right? Rebasing tokens break this invariant. Now, that's okay because it turns out there is a straightforward transformation you can do to go from a rebasing token to an appreciating exchange rate token, something much more similar to like a 4626 vault. And you can go the other way. You can take something that is an appreciating exchange rate and you can turn it into a rebasing token where the exchange rate is always 1-to-1, but the balances are increasing or decreasing over time. So our protocol does not support rebasing tokens. If you have a rebasing token, such as in the case of Aave A tokens from Aave v2, you're going to need to wrap them in order to use that token as collateral. Likewise, for ST-ETH, ST-ETH, if you hold in your wallet, will be worth 1.05 ST-ETH. Rather, the balance of ST-ETH in your wallet will be 1.05 at the end of the year. This is a rebasing token and needs to be wrapped to turn into wrapped staked ETH. Now, fortunately, in Lido's case, we don't have to write the wrapper contract ourselves. In the case of Aave v2, we did Compound v3 as well. In Lido, they actually have a canonical or blessed wrapper contract that everyone uses, which is really nice. So it was really natural here to use that as the choice of collateral token. This means, so remember, ref per talk is the fundamental exchange rate of the protocol that can be used to identify revenue, right? Ref per talk. How many ST-ETH do we have per wrapped staked ETH? You can see that over time that is increasing, right? So here we are. This is implementing an internal function because if we read appreciating fiat collateral closely, we'd see that this is the only thing we need to override. But you can see it basically returns ST-ETH per token, which if we grab, we don't actually have the wrapped contract here because we don't need it. We just need the interface. This is the only function we care about. And maybe there's be some conversion into the language that we're used to. So this is going to safe wrap using the fixed library. So protocol, contracts, libraries, fixed.sol. That's our math library. And yeah, this is basically what Lido ended up being, right? It's really simple. So inheritance call for this giant config struct and a revenue hiding amount. I'll talk about revenue hiding to wrap this up. And it turns out that we need one other kind of price, okay, for Lido. This is the price. So you notice this is documented. Good. This is the price between the target and reference unit, whereas the chain link feed that is inside this config struct is assumed to be UOA, USD, per reference unit. So, well, what's our reference unit? ST-ETH. So this feed is USD per ST-ETH, whereas this feed, excuse me, is ETH per ST-ETH. Okay. This one is going to be used to check to see whether STETH is defaulting or losing its peg. Basically, what is the exchange rate to ETH, and is it sufficiently deviated for a long enough period of time such that we can use that as evidence that we should dump the token. I keep saying we, but I'm speaking facetiously, or I don't know what the term is there. The protocol should dump the token for something else. And meanwhile, this other price in the Chainlink feed, the USD per STETH, is what's going to be used to provide this low and high price, which, looking at our units, is USD per TOK, right? So this is, what is the price of this token that's actually being held by the backing manager? Whereas this peg price, this is more like some exchange rates that's then going to go into some logic inside the refresh of a parent class, and it's going to check to see for default. Again, you don't need to worry about that kind of thing, though I do recommend following the inheritance tree all the way. But generally speaking, you should not be surprised if this is all you need to do to implement a collateral plugin. That is not too crazy. Now, I just want to show a harder case. Oh, I was going to talk about revenue hiding. So revenue hiding here, it's a thing in the appreciating fiat collateral class. This is an extension of the fiat collateral class that adds an appreciation element. So the fiat collateral class assumes that the TOK is exactly equal to the ref. In this contract, we're going to say TOK is not equal to ref. And ref per TOK is actually going to return, in this case, exposed reference price, which is going to be a thing that's calculated in the refresh function, but who cares? Basically, this is just some number that's going up over time. Revenue hiding is the idea of having some actual exchange rate that you sort of hide in the background, and you expose a discounted value. What that allows you to do is if there's a decrease in the actual exchange rate, as long as it's less than the amount of revenue you're hiding, then you don't need to disable the collateral. And that's important because something the protocol requires is if ref per TOK falls, the collateral must be marked as disabled. Now, I'm aware I skipped a bunch of these invariants before diving into this. You can read all of that from this document. Please just read this document from top to bottom. It will be very useful, and it will describe all sorts of things like this. Okay. Yes, we're going to talk about what a harder case looks like. So a harder case, compound v3. So compound v3, basic model. There's on the supply side, there's just ETH. And on the borrow side, there's a whole bunch of tokens. So there's some sort of yield-bearing form. I said just ETH. Ooh, just USDC. There's also an ETH instance of compound v3. So that's not too wrong, but I meant to talk about USDC here. That's called a comet, that USDC, yield-bearing USDC. But it's yield-bearing through rebasing, okay? So if you hold one C USDC v3 at the beginning of the year, maybe you have 1.03 or something by the end of the year, right? This is not going to work for the protocol, so we have to wrap it. Here, by the way, is a great wrapper contract to start with. If you do decide that you need a wrapper contract, start with this Open Zeppelin approved one and extend it from there, okay? So in Compound v3's case, we did need a wrapper. I'm going to open the collateral contract and the wrapper. So you can see the wrapper extends wrap ERC20, and yet it is still pretty long, okay? And this actually has to do with rewards and calculating exactly how you're going to hand out rewards to who and so on. It honestly gets quite complicated. Hopefully you won't have that kind of case. If you have rewards in a wrapper token, then you have one of the harder cases that can possibly exist. And again, at a high level, what this is doing is transforming a rebasing token into a 4626 like, I'm saying like because it's really only like in the fact that there's an appreciating exchange rate, into an exchange rate token.